Thank you so much to everyone for joining today. This is our last day of the Feasibility Literature Review and Meta-Analysis workshop. So I hope you benefited from the previous two classes. And today we will analyze the meta-regression and subgroup analysis. Before we go into our main event, where I just want to share with some of our upcoming courses. So that a lot of students they can be benefited as well. At first, I want to share that we have one courses for the Stata and R. This is econometric course. Those who are working with the secondary data, they are familiar and they use the Stata software and R. And also another course we have the SPSS and eViews. So these two courses for the econometrics, advanced econometrics, we start from the scratch, like data preparation, also using the software. How can we use the software to analyze the descriptive analysis and linear multiple regression, logistic regression, GLM, and quantile regression, factor analysis, and as well as in the Stata, we also try to use the panel data. How can we manage, organize the data, and also how can we describe, interpret the data. So these two courses you can consider those who are working in secondary data. It's actually 8 classes. It covers around 8 to 9 module. One class is considered as one module. So it long 2.5 month longer courses. So all the recording will be given and certificate also available. So the starter course is 122 USD. You can convert into the Indian rupee as well, no issue. And we will share the flyer in the group. And as PSS eViews also, it's actually 98 USD for the eViews. So these two courses, and another course we have the professional certificate course in quantitative marketing, which is eight classes as well, and all the classes will be on Saturday and Sunday mostly because of a lot of students and also professionals they're working into the weekdays, so we prefer the weekends in evening and also the professional certification course on neuromarketing and consumer neuroscience, which is very popular NLP nowadays for the marketing. We cover the applied neuroscience, experimental and neuroeconomics, consumer neuroscience, attention and consciousness, sensory, emotions, advertising and branding. So it's 85 USD, 1 week, 1 classes. And another course, these two courses are for the marketing, and this is for the certificate course on fintech, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. It's 75 USD, and all the courses will be conducted in Saturday and Sunday. So we will cover the fintech, finance to fintech, digital payment system, blockchain technology, and also the insurance tech, cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence in financial world. This is ongoing course, this course fintech. Our next batches will be open in July. So you can contact with me for further details. But the Stata and R, these two courses will be start from the 12th June. So this is our second batch, our first batch already finished. So those who are interested, they can contact me immediately. The 12th June, next week, probably this one will be start. And our another course, which is I'm happy to share that our Dr. Jaspreet Kaur will be conducted a workshop on NVivo qualitative analysis. How can we use the NVivo software to interpret and analyze the qualitative data? It's will be the 2-day course, 24 and 25th July, at the same time, evening. So we will cover a lot of module. You can see that introduction to qualitative research, and also qualitative analysis basics. We start from the sketch, coding with NVivo, text, video, images, and word cloud, text search, sentiment analysis in NVivo. And day 2, we will cover the classifying the data, demographic, process, mind, concept map, and social media analysis with the Encapture. This course will be, the investment is 15 USD, 1000 Indian rupee, and also the recording certificate will be available. So you can, we will share this flyer also into the group. For those who are interested, you can, we already opened the Google form, so you can register. So thank you so much for joining today. And I am also grateful to all the participants for their passion for the learning and also punctuality. And if any issues from our side, so I apologize from the organization. And also I thank to my all the team members, those who have worked so hard to make this success, and also our key facilitator to provide the valuable times. So I'm stopping share today here of my slides. So I am giving the floor to Dr. Jasprit Koch. Thank you so much.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we'll be doing two topics today. Okay, fixed and random model, which many of you were asking yesterday that what is fixed or random model. The second we'll be doing is meta regression and subgroup analysis, because many of you have asked me what is an intervention or how do we check an intervention and how do we test or report an intervention. Okay, so these two topics I'm about to do. Let me go to the first topic for today. Okay, which is yeah, fixed and random model. So in Meta Essentials, um, you all saw there were two. I'm just switching off my video for better connectivity. Yeah. So in a Meta Essential software, you all saw that there were two types of models, or there was a drop down which said fixed or random. Now, what is this fixed and what is this random? To understand this better, I have to give you, or I have to make you understand what is heterogeneity. Now, despite the fact that yesterday, through automated formulae, we calculated an effect size, or should we say consolidated effect size or consolidated weighted effect size, for all the studies done in the past 20 years. Okay, so we have done that. But is that all we report in a paper? Okay, so if you remember during question answer session, yesterday I had opened an ideal paper of an A-star journal, Academy of Management Science, and I showed you that they don't only report the effect size, they give you further analysis into the paper. Or if there is a data set of say 44 papers, we go even further to analyze a few more things and interpret them in our research paper. Now, what are these more things? The first thing we have reported, if you see yesterday, I showed you a table also in the paper where it said effect size, okay, upper and lower limit, and there was a total number of papers and total number of sample. Okay, so I showed you a paper yesterday where the table had started. Okay, and I think I should show it to you again. Give me 1 minute. So there is a just a minute. Yeah, so this is day 1. I'll just share this and then go to heterogeneity. So okay, show all windows. There are too many open. It doesn't show and share somehow. Just a second. Sample paper day 1. Share screen. Okay, yeah, now it shows. Right, so this is the sample paper. And if you remember what we started with in the beginning, so we started with this paper in which we started with Prisma. We did the Pico and then we did the Prisma. Okay, SLR, all of you have done this. Now we go further and we do a meta-analysis. In the meta-analysis, the table number 1 or the first analytical table which has been, ideally listed is this table. Now look at this table. We have done a part of this table till here yesterday. So R plus is the consolidated effect size that we collected, calculated yesterday. K is the total number of papers from which he has taken. He has taken from 19. If you remember, in our meta essential sheet, we had worked on 7. Okay. And the total sample size, as in all these 19 papers taken together. So each paper must have got a sample size, say 20, 200, 30, whatever. The total of this is 6117. So in our 7 papers, okay, whatever was the sample size, the total will be that. We also did, so we did 4 in a row. We also did the upper limit and lower limit of the confidence interval, CI, upper and lower limit. Even this has been finished till yesterday. We are done till here. Now what I'm starting with you is, after I explained to you heterogeneity and fixed and random, is this. So I'm telling you what is Q and I square. Okay, and I'm telling you one more thing, that why does he say random effects average correlation? Why doesn't he say fixed effect average correlation? So these 2 points I'm going to explain to you today. Now, let me come to the concept. What is heterogeneity? Heterogeneity means that my data varies. Okay, so the 40 papers that I have collected, they vary. Why does my data vary? My data will vary. So Higgins says that statistical heterogeneity in the data set that we have collected for meta-analysis is inevitable. I have taken 40 to 44 papers from all over the world, from different locations, from different participants, from different statistical tools. One is using ANOVA, another is using regression, third is using something else. So if I have taken such varied data set and I am calculating the heterogeneity in this data set, it is bound to have some heterogeneity. Okay, and heterogeneity is not the problem. What I want is, I don't want apples and oranges, because the recipe that will be made is this. So if I say factors affecting urge to buy, suppose my objective is factors affecting urge to buy, I should stick to all the papers of urge to buy. Okay, within them there will be heterogeneity, doesn't matter, but I should not skip to topics which are not related to urge to buy and try and push in papers in those 44 papers, because that time what I'll be doing is I'll be collecting apples and oranges. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to keep apples of all colors. I'm not trying to keep all apples of red color, but I'm trying to keep apples of all colors. But any research which is not related to my topic, urge to buy, I will discard it as oranges and pineapples. Okay. Now, forest plot and judging heterogeneity. How do you judge heterogeneity? So the first test, which is very, very basic and it's not effective. I'm telling you it's not effective, but because many people do judge heterogeneity by forest plot, so I'm telling you this. The first test is that you see the forest plot. All of you have seen this forest plot in Meta Essentials. All of you know that the consolidated R plus is the green color ball that you see, where you took the cursor in Meta Essentials and it told you the average overall consolidated effect size, weighted effect size. You also discussed how weights are assigned. Now, if you see the studies over here, they are not in line with the green ball. So either they are left or they are on the right side. So they're not, if I say green is the mean, I can say all my studies are deviating left or right. So thus, through an eyeball test, I can say that this data set that I have is heterogeneous. If all the studies were in line with the mean, or if all the studies were, say, to the right side, I could have still said that my data is heterogeneous. But as of now, my data is, my data is homogeneous. Now, as of now, because it is all helter-skelter, some to the left, some to the right, and look at the variance. Look at the variance from the mean. If I say the mean is 1, if say the effect size, consolidated effect size is 1, I have a study which goes till 2.2 on the right side, right extreme, and I have a study which goes to minus 0.08 to the left. So you can yourself imagine how many deviations are there from the mean, and thus from eyeball I can say this is heterogeneous data. But this is not a full-fledged test, and that is the reason I have to go for statistical tests. So the first statistical test that I do is called the Q value or the chi-square value. Okay, the Q value or the chi-square value is a chi-square test. Um, if any of you do not know what is a chi-square test is a bivariate association test. Okay, and the formula is given over here. Okay, how we calculate it is given over here. But thanks to Meta Essentials or comprehensive meta-analysis softwares, we don't need to calculate this manually. It will be done. But what we have to do is we have to do an interpretation of this. Now, the interpretation of a Q value test is that it will give you two values. One, it will give you a Q value. One, it will give you a P value. P value I'm not explaining again. I had explained yesterday. I told you that any bivariate test, be it regression, be it correlation, be it t-test, be it chi-square, they always report a p-value which shows significance. If the p-value is more than 0.05, the two variables are not significantly related. If the p-value is less than 0.05, the two variables are significantly correlated. Now here, the interpretation is that when the p-value of this Q test comes out to be less than 0.05, okay, or less than 0.1, some books say 0.1, some books say 0.05, you can report any, but you will have to give the reference of the same. Okay, so Higgins says that anything less than 0.1, if the p-value is less than 0.1, after this calculation, the resultant value, if it is less than 0.1, there exists heterogeneity in your data. And if it is more than 0.1, there is no heterogeneity. But medical practitioners weren't satisfied with this, because what happened is that even if the heterogeneity in data was barely 1%, or say barely 0.001%, it used to get reported by this p-value. It used to give p-value significant. Okay, so that is the reason medical practitioners wanted to know that what is the size of heterogeneity, or how much heterogeneous is the data in terms of percentage. So we came to the second value, which is the I-square value. Here, the calculation of an I-square actually tells us the percentage of heterogeneity. But how do you interpret it? So according to Higgins and Thompson, if the I-square is somewhere around 25%, it is low heterogeneity. Up to 50%, it is moderate heterogeneity. And anything above 50%, okay, or is substantial heterogeneity. Okay, so 75% and above, it's huge heterogeneity. Now you might ask me a question that what do we do with that? In fact, the sample paper that I'm going to show you is going to report 95% heterogeneity. You'll ask me, is that wrong? No. I quote Higgins, who said that heterogeneity is not wrong. Heterogeneity is inevitable and it will be there. Okay, so whether 50%, 75%, 90%, you are supposed to be reporting it. Do not think that I've got a 90% heterogeneity, so my data is wrong. Please do not interpret that. Let me go to the next one. The third value, which we don't generally report, okay, is the tau square value. Now, what is this tau square value? To explain it, let me go back to the graph. Every study is deviating from the green ball mean. Okay, if I calculate, if I add all the deviations from the green bubble of each study and apply a formula, okay, like this, it will give me a tau square value. So basically, what is tau square value? Tau square value is the overall deviation that all these 40 studies are showing from the mean. Okay, the relevance of this is that tau square should not be zero. Okay, if tau square is zero, which means your data is homogeneous. If tau square is not zero, means your data is heterogeneous. Again, how much heterogeneous? That can only be told by the I-square value. Now let me go to meta essentials and explain this concept, and then I'll come to simple and random model. So okay. Here is the Excel. Okay, so this was your Excel. This is an eyeball. The moment you see the forest plot,
Can you explain tau square again, please?
Sorry?
Can you explain tau square again?
I'll explain tau square. So if you see in this forest plot, if you see study number 1, okay, the value is 1 point minus 1.8, supposedly, okay, minus 1.8. But the mean value of the green combined effect size is somewhere around minus 0.36. So I can say the study is deviating. One is 0.36, one is minus 1.8. So there's a deviation from the mean. Similarly, study number 2 is 2.5, minus 2.5. Okay, but that of the green bubble or the combined effect size is minus 0.36. So study number 2 is also deviating. These deviations from the mean, consolidated for all studies, are something that is called tau square. Okay, and let me show it to you. I'll show it to you where it is reported. So in the forest plot sheet, you will see this whole block, which is called heterogeneity. Okay, heterogeneity. And here you see a Q value 562.08. This is not relevant. This is not relevant. My interpretation starts from the P value of the Q test. It is 0.000, which means it is less than 0.0 or less than 0.05, whichever author you are citing. And thus we can say that there is significant heterogeneity, or should we say there is a presence of heterogeneity in our data set. Let's go to the next step. Let us see the magnitude of heterogeneity. So I square is 98.04%, more than 75%, substantial heterogeneity in data. It's not wrong, you're just supposed to be reporting it. Tau square 1.92. So it's like saying on an average, a study is deviating from the mean by 1.92. Okay, so these are the values which you report. The only thing that we want in a if our data is heterogeneous, I think all values are confirming. For example, p value is significant, so data is heterogeneous. I square is 98%, so exorbitant heterogeneity is there. Tau square is not zero, thus heterogeneity is there. So all our three values are saying that this data is extremely heterogeneous. I will not be working on two sheets today because these concepts are absolutely same for medical practitioners, social science, arts, maths, English, all students. Okay, now let me go to the second concept, and this is a little tricky. So we need to listen. Okay, let me go to this fixed and random concept, and then I'll quickly come to meta regression. Tau square and okay. Now, forget technicalities. Okay, forget the stats related to meta-analysis. Um, let's say there is a court case being fought. This poor, clown that you see is a researcher, and there are two parties who are coming and talking about, calculation of consolidated effect size to this researcher. So on the left side, I have Mr. Fixed who says that, listen, my model is best. Calculate effect size according to my model. And Miss Random says, no, my model is best. Calculate the effect size according to my model. And poor researcher, because the formula of fixed and formula of random are different, he has to decide which formula to use and which effect size to report. He can report only one effect size, either fixed or random. Okay, now, okay, we let's see what debates they are giving. According to fixed effect, Mr. Fix says all these effect size, all the effect size or true effect size of each of these studies which we have noted are nothing but the consolidated effect size. So I'll explain this a little better through this diagram. If you look at the fixed effect model, okay, the assumption is that if you see the small little triangle, it is theta. This is the consolidated effect size, or should we say the average weighted consolidated effect size of all studies taken together. Now, you must have seen in the forest plot, there are deviations of studies. So study number 1 was on the left, study number 2 on the right, study number 3 on the left. There were deviations. But the fixed model says, actually, there are no deviations. It says, each of your study has the same effect size as the consolidated effect size, which is theta. Okay, now I would like to ask the audience a little questions. Okay, please let me know if you have understood the concept. So has everybody understood what I just spoke? Fixed effect model says all studies will have the same effect size as the consolidated consolidated, can you see? Yeah, consolidated effect size, and there are no variations. But in real forest plot, there are variations. So Miss Random is opposite. She says no. So if you see the graph on the right side, Miss Random says no. The consolidated effect size, I am naming it as mu, and these studies are deviating. Actually, our forest plot looks like what is there on the right side. She says, how are you saying that they are all in synchronization with the mean? They are deviating. I mean, one study reported the effect size of attitude or the correlation of attitude intention as 0.5. One reported 0.1, one reported 0.3. The consolidated effect size came out to be 0.38, but they were all varied correlations. How can you say that all of them have the same effect size as the consolidated effect size? So Mr. Fixed explains, he says, these deviations that you are seeing are only because of sampling error. What is sampling error? You are seeing these deviations because the sample size of all these studies are different. And the moment we increase the sample size of all these studies to say 1000 or 2000, all these studies will stop deviating from the mean and fall in line with the consolidated effect size. Or should I say, all correlations of the 40 papers you collected between attitude and intention, in a way, Mr. Fixed is saying, each paper, although it's reporting 0.5 or 0.3 or 0.1, each paper has a correlation of 0.38 because the consolidated effect size of all 40 papers together is 0.38. Okay, is this understood? Is this understood? Is this point understood? Can participants please unmute and tell me quickly? Is it understood? Any doubts over here?
Ma'am, would you just explain it again once, please?
I'll explain it. So, you know what fixed model says is that suppose you get 40 papers and you are measuring the attitude intention correlation of those 40 papers. In one paper, you get attitude intention correlation as 0.3. In another paper, you get 0.5. In another paper, you get 0.7. Fixed model says that this variation in correlation is only because of difference of sample size. And in case the sample size of all these 40 papers becomes, say, huge, I mean, 2,000, 3,000, all papers say I've taken a sample size of 4,000, they will all report a same correlation. And what will that correlation be? It will be your consolidated effect size, which we found out in Meta Essentials was 0.38. Is it clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
It is clear. Okay. Any further doubts still here? Because if it is clear, then no doubts, then only I'll go ahead. So I'll be asking you doubts in between because there are 2-3 concepts. So I'll be asking any doubts quickly. Participants.
What is sampling error?
Sampling error means, because all studies have different sampling. So, I did tell you, sampling error means that these variations 0.3, 0.5 are only by chance. They are not genuine. They are not true variations. That is what sampling error means. Okay, any other doubts?
Madam?
Yes.
Madam, I had a doubt in one of the studies. Again, he has taken TBP constructs, all the three: attitude, subjective norms, and PBC. The three he has studied separately, effect sizes and forest plot. Then what he has done is he has combined all the three.
Yes, sir.
Of subjective norm, attitude, and PBC. Size and forest plot combined. Can we do like that also?
Sir, we can ask this question later on, but regarding the fixed and random concept, is there a question right now?
Okay.
Yeah, let's work to the concepts, and these questions I'll take at the end.
Okay.
Regarding the concept, I hope it's clear. So I'm going forward because I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Now, in a fixed model, now let us, if you've understood diagrammatically what they are trying to say, let me now voice them. So a fixed model says that there is only one true effect size, and that is the consolidated effect size. Random model says that each and every study has its own true effect size, and this is not equal to the consolidated effect size. The fixed model says the population is homogeneous. Obviously, if 40 papers report an attitude intention of 0.38, all 40 papers are reporting 0.38 only. All of them are saying that the correlation between attitude and intention is the consolidated effect size, which was 0.38, which means all papers are same. All data is same. So it's a homogeneous population. Vis-a-vis that, random model says that my population is heterogeneous. There are variations. There are true variations. They are not because of sampling error. They are not because of chance. Okay. Another one, they both of them are fighting over why this variation is coming. So where fixed effect has said very categorically, these variations are coming because of sample error. It's only by chance. They are not even true variations. At the same time, random effect says or argues that these are true variations. They are coming because the research design, the treatment, the intervention, the samples have been taken from different places. The methods of research applied are different. And thus, genuinely, all these variations among studies are all genuine variations, and these studies are not homogeneous, they are heterogeneous. This is what the random effect concept is. Now, let me go back to meta essentials, but did not understand the difference in fixed and random model shown in the slide. Why not, ma'am? Nivedita, ma'am.
Madam,
Yeah.
in both of these models, which one is correct?
No, both are correct, sir. We decide on heterogeneity. We decide on heterogeneity. The random model is saying that I am to be used when data is heterogeneous. It has already said.
Okay.
Right. So random model to be used when there is high heterogeneity. Fixed model to be used when the heterogeneity is near zero. So if your I square comes out to be, say, up to 25%, you can go for a fixed model. And if it comes out to be more than 25%, like 50%, 90%, obviously I will assume a random model. Okay. And as far as the diagram is concerned, I don't understand, Nivedita ma'am. If you see on the left side, the first diagram, all the studies are having the same correlation values as the mean. But in the right side, in the random effect model, all studies are having different correlation values, varied from the mean. Okay, all studies on the left side are homogeneous, all studies in the right side are heterogeneous. In case of homogeneous, should we use fixed? Yes, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to meta essentials. Now, this is my meta essential sheet. Okay, and there is a choice. Now, there is a choice. So, why I did heterogeneity first is because now look at your heterogeneity data, 98% heterogeneity. Now, you people tell me which model should I go for? Should I go for fixed? Do you see my data as homogeneous? Or do you see it as heterogeneous, highly, substantially heterogeneous? Because my data is highly heterogeneous, I would go to
Random.
model, okay? And there is a drop down and fixed effect. And I'll say, no, I'm not assuming fixed effect because I have a very high heterogeneity, and I'll convert this into random effect. The moment I convert it into the random effect, my combined effect size, whatever it is, whether it's the R effect size, Hedges effect size, Cohen's effect size, whatever it is, it will change. Let me show it to you again. Right now, in the random effect, it is minus 0.42. In fixed effect, it was minus 0.36. Now, the dilemma is what to report. You will only and only report the assumed model value. So here, because there was a very high level of heterogeneity and I assumed random model, I will go for the value which is being reflected in the random model, which is minus 0.42. That is exactly what has been done in this paper also. That is exactly what has been done in this paper also. He says random effect average correlation. So in a way, he's saying all these values which I have reported, especially R plus, okay, the R value that I've reported, consolidated effect size that I've reported, or the average weighted effect size that I've reported is based on random effect. Why did he do it? Look at the heterogeneity. Now, 3 asterisks show that the p-value was significant. Okay, and 94.71 shows that there was a very high heterogeneity. So when your data is heterogeneous, we will go with the argument or the model for heterogeneous data, which is the random model. And had this heterogeneity being somewhere around, say, less than 20-25%, which is nearing zero, I would have used the fixed model because that shows homogeneity, not heterogeneity. Also, in that case, my p-value should not come significant. So in the Q test, my p-value, if it was more than 0.05, I would have said my data is homogeneous. Let me go for the fixed model, not the random model. Any doubt so far? I've told you the concept, calculation, and reporting.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
So, ma'am, the first step is that we have to check the p-value. If it
Yes.
shows that if it is greater than 0.05, it means it
Yes.
is no, I mean homogeneity.
Yes.
Then,
yes.
in a way, we need not to check the I-square.
Yes, I-square, ma'am, even generally, ma'am, these values are connected. The moment you get a non-significant
magnitude, huh.
p-value, you'll get an I-square also very, 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 very low, 10% types.
Okay.
Yeah, these are connected things. Don't worry, the values won't go, it's not that p-value will come significant and I-square will come 2%, or p-value will come not significant and I-square will come 80%. This will never happen.
So, ma'am, like, where are these rule of thumbs? You'll be mentioning, or you'll be sharing the books of
Borenstein.
Borenstein.
Yeah,
Okay.
Borenstein, 2009.
Ma'am, you'll be sharing the content for that.
I can share. I have a PDF file. It's also available on the net, but I'll share it with you.
Okay.
It's a PDF
Thank
file.
you.
Borenstein
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, yes,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes.
Ma'am, will there ever be a situation in social sciences studies where we see there is no heterogeneity?
It is possible, ma'am. Why not?
It is.
It is possible.
Okay.
It is quite possible, but it's very rare, ma'am. I'll tell you why. See, ma'am, when I collect papers for meta-analysis, I take papers from everywhere. 20 sample to 200 sample, UK to India. So it's very rare. I mean, I still haven't seen a paper where they tested heterogeneity and it came out to be homogeneous. I'm still to see a paper. If you find any paper like that,
So
I've never
exactly. That's what I also think. So
No.
by default, I think we'll be using the random model.
Yes. 90% time you'll be using the random model.
Right.
That's true.
All right. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so can I go to meta regression quickly?
Madam,
Just
the
a minute,
concept
ma'am. One
itself.
more question.
Yes.
Do we need to report the significance of composite R? Because I have seen a paper, they have shown the significance level
You
at
can
composite R
report.
also.
You can report, but it's not needed.
Okay, it's not needed.
Not
Ma'am, could you
needed.
please show me in Meta Essential where it is p-value of composite R?
P-value of composite R.
P-value of composite R, yes.
Wait, I'll have to, can we go to the next question so that we, next,
Madam,
if there is
actually,
any, yes.
the fixed and random model itself, it is telling random model itself, it is telling it is heterogeneous.
Yes.
Okay, the population or the data itself is a heterogeneous, but the fixed is telling that we will collect the sample from the homogeneous data itself. The basic concept itself, fixed model is telling it is homogeneous data only, homogeneous population only. Random model is telling it is a heterogeneous population.
Sir, it's not a homogeneous population. The studies are homogeneous. We are not dealing with primary data. I am dealing with 40 secondary data research papers. Okay. These are 40 secondary data research papers, and these 40 papers are heterogeneous or homogeneous. Okay. The reason why they are homogeneous and heterogeneous is because they have been taken from different locations and research designs. That is what I mean. Okay, and for the question that ma'am was asking, in Meta Essentials, the significance is not reported. Okay, so if you see a combined effect size of 0.44, we assume that it is significant. Significance of R value is reported in softwares like paid softwares like comprehensive meta-analysis. That is the reason most of the papers don't report it. It's not necessary. We are assuming that this effect size reported is significant. Okay. Yeah. So can I quickly go to the next concept now, and then we'll take on questions later on. So fixed model you have understood, heterogeneity you have understood. Now one concept is left, and we'll be on time. If I can explain that in 15-20 minutes, we'll have half an hour of question answer. Yeah, so 1 minute, I'm just opening the slide. And it's a very interesting concept. Subgroup analysis and meta regression. So the intervention or the comparison, remember, C for comparison and I for intervention, this is where we are going to do that. So I don't see my PPT somehow. Charger. Yeah. Just a second. Let me manage. This is, yeah. Okay. Share screen. Okay, now let me go to, we can through subgroup analysis tell you the reasons of heterogeneity. Okay, so now I know that there is heterogeneity. So there's some 90% or 80% or whatever, substantial heterogeneity. I have also assumed that the random model. Okay, so I assumed the random model also, everything is good. I've reported the heterogeneity. Now the next thing is, I want to see that what are the interventions or the comparative groups which are bringing a heterogeneity in this data. So I go for a subgroup analysis. Now, what is a subgroup analysis? If you remember, in the PICO, there was something called a C. Okay, and even in my example, I had written males versus females. All right, dividing into subgroups. In experimental studies, these subgroups will become control groups and experimental groups, or control groups and treatment groups. Now, what is a subgroup analysis? In subgroup analysis, we split the 40 papers on the basis of a characteristic. Okay. Now, you might ask me that, ma'am, even in social sciences or even in medical sciences, sometimes you will say, sometimes the split might not be possible. For example, there are 40 papers. Okay. 40 papers which are doing an analysis of impact of COVID vaccine on adolescents or children. Now you might say, ma'am, in each and every paper, they are taking males and females. All 40 papers, each and every paper, they are taking both genders. So can I make it a comparative study? No, you cannot. No, you cannot. If you have to do a subgroup analysis of something like, say, if your objective at the start was that I am going to put in an intervention called that new chemical of COVID vaccine, and I'm going to test it on adolescents, you should have written over there in C, comparison, that I am going to compare males and females. So if that was your objective, your 40 papers should have been collected from studies which are either on males or on females. Everything goes according to the objective, everything. So if that hasn't happened, and now overnight you feel, okay, let's do male female. Now if you try making your the C of PICO, it will not be possible. These things are to be planned right in the beginning because data is collected according to that. So now, okay, I collected a data of 40 papers, and each and every paper had a male female. So now I can't take male female as a subgroup. What can I take as a subgroup? I'll give you one example. Segregate the two papers on the basis of sample size less than 250 and sample size more than 250. This can be done, but of course, an appropriate sample size is 250 in a research paper that you'll have to cite from some author. Once you have cited it, you can segregate your 40 papers on the basis of sample size less than 250. This becomes one subgroup. Sample size more than 250, this becomes another subgroup. And now I can do the C comparison. Okay. What happens in a subgroup analysis, and this is exactly what is being done. My total data set is broken up into males and females. So the software will automatically, not automatically, we'll have to put another input. If you remember in the input sheet of Meta Essential, there was a sheet of subgroup. We'll have to fill that up. Once we fill that up, the software will automatically divide my studies on the basis of studies of males and studies of females. And it will calculate the effect size, heterogeneity, etc., of both the groups separately. Okay. Now, interpretation. This is what the software is going to do. What do? I have to see two things in this. Subgroup analysis is done for two reasons. Sometimes it is done to find the reason of heterogeneity. So suppose there are 5 papers of male and 5 papers of female. So I had a total data set of say 10 papers, and there was a very high heterogeneity, say 90%. And I wanted to find out what is the reason of this heterogeneity. Is the heterogeneity coming because I have merged papers who are having males and merged papers who are having female participants? I want to check. So I divide the papers on the basis of male and female, and my I-square or heterogeneity in each of the subgroups falls to 0%. And that is exactly what is happening over here. So if you see the first data set of males and you read the I-square value in heterogeneity, the row called heterogeneity, if you see I-square, it's 0. No heterogeneity when the data is divided for males. So all male papers are homogeneous and all female papers are homogeneous. But when they were merged, they were showing a very high heterogeneity. It's the last row, if you can read. It says, test for subgroup differences. The 10 papers taken together showed a heterogeneity of 75.5. Okay. So the moment we divided them into subgroups and compared, it became 0%. Now you guys are not going to be that lucky. This is like a perfect data I've brought in for an example for people who want to study the reason of heterogeneity. This 0% comes with a lot of hit and trial. I've done it with one group, and then he's done it with one factor and he got 0%. But this is just reporting. He must have done it with some 20 factors. All 20 factors must have not brought down his heterogeneity within subgroups to 0%. Number one. So one reason is bringing down the heterogeneity or trying to defend the heterogeneity. The second reason of a subgroup analysis is the C, that is comparing two groups. I'm not working on reducing heterogeneity or defining the reasons of heterogeneity. I just want to compare the effect size of males and females separately. Now, if you see the consolidated effect size, it's the last row, bold, it says subtotal. Okay, so if you see over here, in males, the effect size, the diamond in the forest plot, the value is written on the left side of the diamond. It's 0.27 and it's in bold. Okay, vis-a-vis that, the female's value for the same diamond on the left side is 0.48. Now, there is an exorbitant difference in effect size between males and females. So we can say that this could be a reason for heterogeneity, or we can say this one variable gender could also be a moderator or could also be an intervention. Okay, so the fact that these two subgroups are reporting different effect size, we can say that gender was one parameter which could bring in heterogeneity in our data. Okay, so this is how we defend heterogeneity or try and explain heterogeneity with subgroup analysis. The second type is meta-regression, but why meta-regression is because many people were not happy with subgroup analysis. Many analysts, meta-analysts was not happy because, you broke the data set. I mean, I had 40 papers and you broke it into 2020. Sometimes when we have 3 subgroups, I might have to divide it into 10 and then, 12 and 10. So I'm further dividing it and doing a re-meta-analysis of each group. So many people said that this method is not right because you're making the data set very small for meta-analysis, and meta-analysis is best done when the data set is huge, 40 papers, 60 papers, nothing like it. Okay, so what were the flaws in the, there were flaws in the subgroup analysis because of which we went for meta-regression. Okay, now what is meta-regression? let me explain the concept of the moderator first. Okay, they are called moderators, or they are called the explanatory variables. In research, we say there is something called a direct effect and there is something called a moderation effect. This moderator in the PICU forms the I, intervention. And this is judged or calculated through a statistical value for moderation, which is called regression coefficient. Okay, and that is exactly, this is exactly how it happens in normal bivariate statistics also. And this is the same way we are going to do it over here in meta-analysis also. So this concept is absolutely same like regression, nothing new. But the intervention part or the moderation part is something that I want participants to understand. For those of you who don't know what is moderator or moderation, let me explain it with an example. The father yells on the child cries. Direct relationship, linear relationship, no moderation. The more the father shouts, the more the child cries. Okay, significant beta coefficient, significant linear relationship. P-value will always be less than 0.05 because as the father is raising his voice, so is the child crying more. Okay, you'll get a p-value which will be significant, and you will definitely get a simple, genuine, significant linear relationship between father shouting and child crying. Now here in this case, when the linear relationship is going so good, here comes a moderator. The moderator generally, at least in Indian homes, I don't know about others, but I'm dead sure it'll be there in other cases also. The mother is a very big moderator in this case. The moment the mother comes into the room, the father is still yelling and shouting, but the child stops crying. Now my mother is there. Now you do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to cry. Now in this case, the mother is the moderator. She has affected this linear relationship. She has brought a change in this linear relationship. And she can also be called as an intervener, or in PICU, we call her the intervention. Okay, now let me give you an example in medical field. Okay, let the father become the normal Covishield vaccine, which we are giving to 18 plus population in India. Let the child become the patient. Okay, and child, I told you COVID vaccine for children, so he's a child. The father is Covishield, I am applying him on a child, but I am testing that new chemical, okay, which can reduce the power of Covishield so that it's not very effective on the child, that he gets extremely unwell or there are some dire consequences of the vaccine. So here father is Covishield, the child is that teenage child on which I'm trying the vaccine, and here that one chemical which can reduce the effectiveness so that the child doesn't get, it doesn't harm the child. This new chemical is the moderator or the mother. Okay, when it comes to social sciences, the father is the attitude, the child is the intention, but religion is one factor. Mother is the religion. Religion is one factor which can lead as an intervention or a moderator and disturb the relationship or change the relationship between a person's attitude and his purchase intention. Okay, so this is moderation. Moderation in when you go to meta regression, it's almost like regression. I am assuming that most of you know what's a regression. So this is like a linear regression. If you see, it is represented by a graph where weight and height are being plotted. And generally we get this blue line, which is supposed to be the regression line. Okay, and all values should be near the regression line if there is genuinely significantly a relationship between the two factors. This is about linear model. what we are going to do in meta regression is we are going to bring in a moderator, and we might not just bring one moderator. We could be like the diagram you can see, we could bring 2 to 3 moderators, or they can also be called explanatory variable, or they can also be called covariates, or they can also be called interventions. Now, I'll not do this. Okay, so yeah, so let's go to, I finished this, I finished the concept, let's go to meta essentials. Now, this is my meta essential sheet. Okay, I'm going back to input, but be it the science students or be it the social science students, this input will be same for all. So I'll just explain on one sheet. In your default sheet, which you have downloaded from Meta Essentials, you will have this column called subgroup analysis. I'm showing you for male and female. I have to tell the software that Sheeran's paper was done only on males. Belk's paper had participants only males. XYZ had female, male, female, male. I have to tell what my secondary data population was while during the experiment or during the research. Now, once I put this subgroup column, let me go to the subgroup analysis page. Below, just click subgroup analysis. And you will see that the macro has already divided the studies which were done on females on one side and the ones which were done on males on the other side. You will see that there is already a consolidated effect size of female, which is 0.79, and male, which is, sorry, this is the upper limit. The consolidated effect size of females is 0.43 and that of males is 0.60. Okay. Let me also see the individual heterogeneity over here. Unlike the perfect data that I had got, when we say combined effect size means when these papers were together. Right now we have broken them into subsets, but when these papers were together, what was the actual values that is shown by this row. Now, if I read the heterogeneity, my heterogeneity was 97.90%. Despite the fact that I divided the papers into males and females, my heterogeneity still is 97.98. So the question that I want to ask you is gender a genuine moderator? Is gender a genuine explanatory variable defending heterogeneity? Is gender explaining heterogeneity? If that was your purpose of doing this analysis, no, gender is not one of those factors which was leading to heterogeneity in this data. Now let me go to effect size. Effect size. So if my objective was to compare two groups, if my objective was that I want to compare two groups and I want to see that are males, when it comes to attitude and intention, are males having a higher effect size of all consolidated 40 studies vis-a-vis females, if that was my intention, I can report that females were found to have a lesser effect size, attitude, intention vis-a-vis males. Okay, this I can report. And I can say that males have found to be, or males' attitude has found to be more influencing in intention in the past 20 years vis-a-vis that of females. This I can interpret and conclude in my conclusions. Okay. So this is about subgroup
Madam, can you
analysis.
repeat this point once you said just now? I can conclude just now what you said.
Yeah,
That-
so sir, in all the 40 papers over
Okay.
20 years,
Okay.
I was doing this whole sheet is only for attitude intention. Okay, so I will say, and we were collecting correlational values of attitude impact on intention. And this is the consolidated values of 20 years of attitude and intention. So consolidated value of all females in the past 20 years,
Yes,
the
madam.
attitude affects intention by say effect size 0.43. But
Yes,
in
ma'am.
males, it has been found that attitude impacts intention more than females in the past 20 years of study, which is 0.60. So this we can conclude and write in our analysis.
Okay.
So this is subgroup analysis. Let me finish moderation analysis so that I can then take up questions. So just go to input. We will have to add another column. Okay. Now here what I've done is I've taken the same variable. So my variable or my explanatory variable is still male and female only. The only thing you have to do in a moderator input is you have to convert it into codes. Okay. So if you over here, if you say male, female, male, female, male, female, it will not accept it. In paid softwares like comprehensive meta-analysis, it does, take categorical variables also. But over here in the moderator column, if you say male, female, other, suppose I'm saying male, female, other, male, female, other, male, female, other, I will give a code to male, which is 1, code to female, which is 2, code to others, which is 3. And I will put the codes in the moderator. Okay, so I'm doing the same exercise for gender. I have divided my papers. Okay, this is not I'm dividing. I'm saying Sheeran's paper was 1, which means Sheeran's paper was on males. Belk's paper was on females. Okay, and XYZ paper was on, say, others. So I'm just explaining this column. It doesn't have to match subgroup. I'm just taking an example. So if I say there are 3 types of categories and I put in 3 values and then I go to moderator analysis. For meta regression, I have to go to moderator analysis. And here is my analysis. And where do I read this analysis? I have to go down. Okay. And okay, I have to go down and I have to see this line is the interpretation. We have we have a beta value which is minus 0.55. This should not be 0. Okay, but it's nearly this, and then after this we have to learn about the p-value in beta coefficient. So like the interpretation of this is almost like we did for the q. Remember heterogeneity q value? We just saw the p-value and interpreted. So if I see the p-value of this moderator, which moderator? 1, 2, 3, male, female, other. I see that the p-value is 0.08. Now this p-value is more than 0.05. Okay, thus this moderator is not significantly affecting the bivariate relationship. Okay, so we can say that it is affecting, but it's not significantly affecting the relationship. In case, like in some books, the p-value can be taken to 0.1. Okay, but you will have to give an author reference for that. So if you are assuming that I will test the p-value on the basis of 0.1, then you can say that 0.085 is significant. Okay, and thus I can say that this is showing some amount of moderation. So depending on the value that you take, but I generally go for 0.05. So I do not see I do not consider this as a genuine moderator. Now let me change the data a little. I'm just trying to change the data. Okay, and you all can also experiment with this if you want to. I'm changing the data to see that does it become significant or not. So this is just like playing with data, and you don't do that. You do genuine data only. So all right, so here we have a moderator. P-value has gone worse, 0.87, again more than 0.05. Okay, so this moderator also is not significant to this meta-analytical study. This intervention is not significant in this meta-analytical study. Okay, so these are the interpretations of the moderator analysis. I'll try for a last time if I can make it significant. I don't know if I can, but let me try. Just changing the sample size. Let me see if it has become significant. Yeah, I was very successful. Yes. So I changed the data. I don't change the data. I'm just doing it to show you. Now I've changed the input and you can see the moderator analysis. The p-value is 0.000, which means it's less than 0.05. Now, because this relationship is significant, I can go and report the R-square value. What is R-square value? The p-value is telling you that the moderator is disturbing the linear relationship. R-square tells you by how much is it disturbing the relationship? How much is it impacting the bivariate relationship? So R-square values are read only and only when the p-value of beta regression comes out to be positive. Positive as in significant, less than 0.05. So in any case, if you get your moderator p-value less than 0.05, which means the moderator is significant, only then read the R-square value and report it. If you get the p-value of the moderator insignificant, do not report the R-square. Okay, this is very similar to, remember the Q and I square? If Q p-value was significant, we report the I square. If Q p-value is not significant, our data is homogeneous, why are we even writing I square? I square is a measure of heterogeneity. It is very similar to that. Okay, that's it from me, and I'll just quickly take you through the sample paper so that we can end here. And this is the sample paper, okay? And what they did is, they did a subgroup analysis. They have not done a moderation analysis, they've done a subgroup analysis. Now look at this paper. They have divided the 40 papers in age groups of participants. Okay, so less than 17 years, 18 to 29 years, more than 30 years, okay? They have done it for attitude and intention, and they have calculated the value of N, K, effect size I square for each of the subgroups. Each of the subgroups. There are 3 subgroups they are doing. Their heterogeneity is still high, 97, 87, 90, that's okay. But if I see the effect size, it might vary somewhere. So let me give you one example. For example, see this relationship. I'm just underlining the row. Look at this relationship. For less than 17, the consolidated effect size is coming 0.41. For 18 to 29, it is coming 0.38, but for more than 30, it is coming to 0.28. So there is a difference when it comes to subjective norm. Subjective norm means society and how it impacts intention. There is a difference of the subjective norm and intention relationship when it comes to youngsters. The 17-year-old children are very, very conscious of social media sites. Thus, most of the research done on these people, 40 papers, showed that they were very conscious of society, 0.41. But when it comes to the above 30 people, the same consciousness for the 40 papers that we collected over 20 years, consolidated shows 0.28, which is very low social consciousness. Okay, so this is the way you interpret and write it. Of course, the only best way to write a paper is see A-grade papers, look at their interpretations and learn to write. Right? Any doubts? We can come to doubts now.
Yes, thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah.
First of all, the paper that you have shown us as a sample paper, we would like to have these paper because, you know, you have explained everything step by step. So it will be very, very easy for us if we get the paper to write the model in our paper.
I'll mail it right away. So while I'm speaking, let me mail it.
Okay.
Let me mail the content.
Number 2, ma'am.
Yeah.
In the subgroup analysis, we can take more than 2 subgroups.
Yes.
Yes, we can take it. But in moderator, if my study is having 3-4 moderators, can I take that? Because
you'll have to do it one by one, ma'am. One by one.
Okay.
Yeah. can be done. So this column you do for one moderator,
Hmm.
take the values,
Hmm.
go to another sheet, cut, copy, paste, change the moderator values, take the values. You'll have to do it 4 times for 4 moderators.
Okay, because when you have shown your PPT, you said that more than one variable, more than one moderator you can keep.
So ma'am, see, in Meta Essentials, you know, alone, if you want to see the impact of, see in the same example of the father and the child crying, alone seeing the impact of a mother, alone seeing the impact of a grandfather coming into it, alone seeing the impact of a sibling coming, you can do that in Meta Essentials. But if you want to see that in the room when the mother, the grandmother and the sibling together enter, then what happens? That for that paid softwares can only do that. So that consolidated of 3 can only be done by comprehensive meta-analysis.
Okay.
Or it can be done on, I think, our software also, but it has a lot of coding, so I'm not very comfortable with it, but you can try.
Even I'm also not comfortable at coding.
Madam?
The third one is that, ma'am,
Yes.
जैसे in your example, you have taken subgroup analysis and male and female. Similarly, we can also take, if we are considering 2 variable, height and weight.
Yes.
Right? Height and weight, or otherwise we can take blood pressure or weight, and according to the moderator would be age. So
Yes,
can we do it
definitely.
like this?
Definitely, yes, your intervention is age. Your intervention is age, definitely can be done. That's right.
Last question, ma'am. If we want to have the paid software, on an average, what would be the yearly cost of that?
Ma'am, comprehensive meta-analysis, I think if I'm not wrong, last year I had
15,000, madam.
15,000
15,000 right now. Yeah.
Or 1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
1 year, yes. Academics is a different price. Madam, there is one paper with me right now on carpooling meta-analysis, madam. Hello, madam. Hello.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Madam, I have a paper with me right now which has done meta-analysis of carpooling. In that, he mentions in the moderator analysis section, we have not done the moderated analysis since our meta-analysis includes only 22 studies. So we have not used it. This is in line with another study, Gardner and Abraham 2008, which says if number of studies included in meta-analysis is small, you should not do moderated analysis. Instead, you can remove the outliers. But madam, the paper which you showed to us just now, or you have been showing it, in that 19 papers also are there, but he has used moderator. So what?
So first thing first, there are 22 papers, not 19. In the study that I've shown you, there are 22 papers.
Okay, madam.
In Prisma, I showed you day before yesterday, he had 22 papers. Number 2, sir, again, my question is this an A grade paper that you're referring to?
Yeah, it is B grade, B journal.
B level, B level. Sir, ideally, you know, for learning, please consider A or A star.
Okay, so fine. Then even if it is small also, we can use moderator, madam?
Yes, we can use. For example, the paper that you are citing doesn't even have 20 studies, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Right. So I told you, see, in an A grade paper, you'll not get anything less than 40.
Okay.
So these problems don't come, you know, whether to do a meta regression or not, because the sample size is small. These problems don't come in A grade papers.
Okay, madam. And for categorical variable, madam, in the comprehensive meta-analysis software, which I learned from you from the last shop, we can, for a categorical moderator like male, female, we can write MF, or we can write 1 or 2 numerical we can give, no, madam?
Yes. So, sir, let's not confuse here. In comprehensive meta-analysis, it takes categorical variable in moderation also. In meta-regression also.
In
meta-regression, but here it does not.
Okay. In meta.
That is.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a limitation. It's a free macro, so of course some limitations are there vis-a-vis. You know, those.
Okay. Right? Madam, and I would like to say thanks. 2 workshops, I have learned a lot from you. And
thank you, sir.
position to understand more and more meta-analysis. I have been reading more and more papers, and I have started working on a paper already using
Right, sir.
analysis. And the day it gets published, I will be thanking you first, and it will be
Thank you
my
so
Guru
much.
Dakshina to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Not, madam. And request that doubts you can clear whenever.
Yes, sir. Please put it up on WhatsApp so that everybody
Yeah.
can learn. Now, I'm just
Even
sharing
after
with
the
you now.
workshop is over, maybe after some days and all.
Yes,
madam.
yes. Sure, sir.
Thanks a lot, madam. Thanks a lot.
Thank
And
you.
thanks
Thank
for the organizers. Right.
Thank you. Now, if you see this paper I showed you yesterday, which was a sample paper of an A grade journal, A Star, Journal of Academy of Marketing Science, which
Okay,
had
madam.
just done a subgroup analysis and a beta this thing. But what I want to show you is, yeah. So he says I've based this criteria on 44 manuscripts.
Okay.
Okay, so in an A grade paper, so generally you will find more than 40, number one. Number two, he's not stopped at subgroup. So this is his subgroup. He's divided them into average, no endorsement, other endorsement subgroups. He's further gone to do a beta coefficient analysis also for moderation. And he's reported those values also.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so
Please
this is the
paper
beta
to
coefficient
us.
value, and the asterisk shows that it is significant. So he found expert endorsement as a moderator was not significant. Ordinary consumer endorsement not significant. Unknown endorsement somewhat significant. Quality significant. And you know, in what does the asterisk say? So look at these limits. I told you it depends on authors. So p-value less than 0.5, double asterisk means p-value less than 0.01, and 0.001. So he's defined, but whether it's one asterisk, 2 or 3, it means significance. And we can cite different authors for it. So these 4 moderators, he found significant on beta coefficient, and the first 2 expert endorsement and ordinary, he found it non-significant. So in a good paper, you will see a subgroup plus a beta, and plus it will be more than 40.
Madam, you are sending this paper to us?
I'm sending it, sir. I'm
Okay,
sending it.
thanks
I'll
a
just
lot.
get it. Yeah. Pushpak sir?
Yeah,
Pushpak sir? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, in one of the slides, I saw something was written about pooled results. Can you tell me what is this pooled result?
Pooled results are, sir, all these 40 papers taken together.
Oh, okay.
Consolidated or summarized results are pooled results.
Okay. Okay.
Unless and until he was speaking about pooled standard deviation. I explained to the medical students yesterday that standard deviation, and in formula I had shown you pooled standard deviation, unless and until they were talking about that.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, Naina ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
Yes.
I want to ask that you have told that you very well explained the concept of moderator. We got that, but my question is that when we talk about subgroup analysis, like we are dividing on the basis of, let's say, we are dividing on the basis of gender, and it means the gender will become the moderator, or we
Yes.
can have,
Yes. That's right.
or is it that we can divide on the basis of like we can do subgroup analysis on the basis of gender, and moderator can have maybe age.
And the two techniques are subgroup and meta regression. Let us get the titles clear first. The two techniques are subgroup analysis and meta regression. In both the techniques, we are testing moderation.
Okay. So
Would
the
it be fine now?
variable has to be the same. I got it.
Yeah, it has to be. I'll give you an example.
The same.
I'll give you an example. Suppose I want to see, now this was my data for attitude intention. I collected from 40 papers the data of attitude and intention, correlational values of attitude and intention. Now I want to see the impact of religiosity. What will I do? I will divide the papers in subgroups of papers happened in a, say, a Muslim country, samples from Muslim country, samples from Christians, and then do a subgroup analysis. It will show me whether if effect size of the Muslim groups, all papers of the Muslim groups versus all papers of the Christian groups versus all papers of the other groups, If the effect size are different for all three, I can say religion is a moderator. Right?
Okay, thank you. And ma'am, one more question. You were quoting some examples from the studies of marketing. Like my area is in finance. So what we can do, I mean, there we do not have such kind of variables like gender or
Ma'am, in finance, you know, there's this one paper which I came across, which was Meta Essentials. It was on you understand venture capitalists now?
Yes.
Yeah. So you know, a startup entrepreneur has to go to these venture capitalists to get finances. So what are the factors which impact the decision of these venture capitalists? There are models, there are statistical models on that. If you pick up all those papers, you will get correlation value between, suppose, decision to finance and risk associated. I'm just giving you an example. Okay. Now you collected 40 values for risk and investment. Okay. And 40 values are there. Now you want to see the intervention. Okay.
Yes.
Even this intervention can be done on the basis of location of sample. Location of sample can become a moderator. Let's see if Asian countries risk impacts the investment more vis-a-vis the non-Asian. So there are two subgroups, Asian, non-Asian. Divide the papers on it, see the moderation.
Okay. So ma'am, like for this intervention point, like what we have to make as an intervention. So how we go about...
Moderator is the intervention.
Yes, ma'am, how we go about it? Like what should be the variable which should be taken as a moderator?
Ma'am, for that you need past literature study.
Okay, it has to be something which has,
which has been named as a moderator by some author.
Okay.
It has to have a theoretical base. You just can't pick up a moderator because you felt like.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yes, Zainab, ma'am.
Madam, I can't have a new moderator.
Rohan sir, let's finish for everyone and then I'll come to you. Let's go chance by chance.
Okay,
yes,
madam.
Zainab.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I learned a lot of things that I was struggling with before. Thank you.
Okay.
My question is first regarding what you just now explained about, for example, you showed the paper and then you said the intervention is religion.
Yes.
Example. So did we, when we're doing this meta-analysis, in the beginning we were doing the PICO. So before I start my paper, I'm choosing my intervention. And then once I finish collecting the data, then I will test to see whether this intervention is correct or not.
Yes.
Okay.
So much so that when I list my intervention, I will be collecting the data on the basis of keywords only based on that intervention.
Okay.
My whole data collection will be planned as per the PICO.
Right. Yeah, you said that on the first day. And then what if, let's say, with the subgroup test, my moderator turned out not to be a significant moderator?
That's okay, Zainab. You can
report it.
Yeah, you just report it. Yes. I showed you a paper, an A-star paper, where 4 moderators were significant, but 2 were not. He's reported it.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, how did you select it? Sorry, just a second. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't put the question together. Maybe at the end, if someone.
Okay, you can maybe at the end. Okay, yeah, Rohan, I can see Rohan. I can. Rohan, please, yeah.
Before that, I'm requesting everyone to please on your video, so then we can take some snaps. In the meantime, you can ask the questions, the participant.
I don't see any other hand raised, so Rohan should ideally be the last question.
Yeah.
There's somebody logged in as Rohan. Yeah, wanted to ask a question.
Can't have a new moderator? I mean, where there is no literature example. something new which I talk about. No, always there has to be literature.
Sir, our meta-analysis is based on secondary research papers.
Okay, madam.
Then
Okay.
how will I get data? How will I get secondary research data?
Okay,
If you really want to
thanks.
work on something like in
Okay.
neuroscience and neuromarketing, in gamification, we are working with new variables. We are just going for a primary data analysis to prove a correlation. We are not doing meta-analysis for that.
Okay, okay, madam.
Yeah.
Sorry, may I ask now? I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first day that we were working on the meta-analysis, we entered sample size and correlation effect. And today we entered moderator. That's it, right?
Yeah.
And then we reported
Moderator and subgroup also.
Subgroup analysis resulted in our moderator, right?
No, the technique is subgroup analysis and meta regression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for each of these techniques, we have made 2 columns. Let me share. Now, this is the sheet, whether it's for medical students or whether it is for, so for subgroup, this was my column when I was doing subgroup analysis. For meta regression, my column was called moderator.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Yes, so Pallavi, again, yes. Can we finish questions now? Because I think repeated questions are coming. So later on, we can ask on WhatsApp.
One question related to Zainab, what she asked. Ma'am, if we can we like drop some moderator which are not coming significant from our conceptual model?
Ma'am, ideally, I would report them. Why do you want, when you have
Okay.
done an analysis, why don't you want to report them?
Okay.
You can
So we should
drop them
keep it.
from you can drop them from a conceptual model and say that, okay, you know, I started with this conceptual model and I've come
Right.
to this. That can
Right.
be done, but don't drop them in a tabular form. Do report the values.
Okay.
Even if you have to
Okay.
say that I've dropped them, you have to give them a number to justify. So please do the analysis, right?
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Vishwanath sir, you haven't spoken. Yes.
What is covariate?
Covariate is nothing but the moderator, sir. So this 1, 2, remember in meta regression 1, 2, 3, that was covariate.
Okay.
In different softwares, it is given different names. So if I go to comprehensive meta-analysis, over there they say enter the data for the covariate. So over there, don't get confused. It is nothing but the moderator only.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. Raju.
Madam, not related to the research, but I have some doubt as you are from medicine.
I'm not from medicine, sir. I'm not from medicine. I'm from social sciences. I'm not from medicine.
Okay.
I'm glad you got that image, but I'm not.
Then I won't pose this question.
No. I'm a doctorate in management, please. Yeah.
Okay. Would you share one finance paper also from meta-analysis?
I will share. Please remind me in the WhatsApp group. I'll share. Okay. Pallavi and Neha, ma'am, are coming again with questions. Ma'am, please, we'll continue in the WhatsApp. Right?
Ma'am, it's about
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
How to calculate? Do we have anything to calculate average effect size?
Had what with effect size? I didn't get
Average effect size. You just shown a paper. It was having in a term as average effect size. The paper
average effect size is consolidated effect size, ma'am.
Consolidated.
Yes. Same thing.
Okay, and ma'am, in one paper I have seen fail, safe, draw, end. Fail.
I didn't get it.
I have seen fail, safe, draw.
Fail, safe, draw test is a publication bias. Okay. Generally, when I take a 5-day FTP, I cover it up. It's a publication bias. So whether you have a biased set of data or not, we can statistically see that also. That is called publication bias.
So we are going
fail,
to do
safe, end test.
So we are going to do it.
We are not going to do. Today is the end.
Okay.
Ma'am, there are many concepts in meta-analysis. All cannot be done in a 3-day workshop. But yeah, I have to give you the link of YouTube. In my YouTube channel, it's there.
I already shared, ma'am.
Because, you know, I have 5 days workshops. I've uploaded them over there. All workshops I've uploaded. So yeah, so this is my link to YouTube. You'll get it over there.
We will share our videos also in the YouTube, no problem, later on.
Yes.
It will be easy.
Right. So, sir,
I am requesting everyone to open the video still.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah.
Can we have a picture quickly?
Yes, just 1 minute. Please, everyone, in the picture on the video. Alan Bharati, Mr. Alex. Tanma, did you take the snaps?
I'm taking. Just give me a moment.
Just pause.
Hello, sir. Actually, my laptop was not working, so I'm using my son's
No
laptop.
problem. No problem. You look.
You can see the
handsome.
other name, Rohan.
Yeah, you look handsome.
Rohan is my son.
No problem. Thank you. It's glad to see everyone here for the last time.
Okay, done.
And then the freestyle. Thumbs up, everyone, please thumbs up. Yeah.
Thank you.
One, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So good.
Yeah.
So any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah,
You
we'll
can-
end
you
it
can-
here, sir, and in
Yeah.
WhatsApp they can ask
Okay.
any
No
further
issue.
questions. WhatsApp
So-
group will remain live. Even if you're
Yeah.
working on papers, I'll be answering over there.
Also, please share your any kind of webinars and seminars, conferences, information you can share. No issue.
Yes, yes. And this is my next FTP is next week on NVivo. Okay, I've put up the brochure. And then, of course, in July end, I'm doing another workshop with Sir
Yeah.
on qualitative analysis in NVivo.
Yes,
So
from
next
Monism
week,
we
if
will
anybody-
organize.
Yeah. So next week I have an FTP. I've put it up in the group. If anybody wants to join next week, you
And
can.
for the certificate, we will issue within the 2 weeks. Please be patient.
Yes, Zainab.
Yes, sir.
Zainab seems to be
Yes, sir.
registering within
Ideally,
an
it should
hour.
have been a 5 days workshop. Should have been a 5
If
days
Madam
workshop.
allow, if Madam have the
We
schedule
can, sir,
complete.
but after like say July end or something. I mean, let's
Yeah.
do NVivo first July end, and then maybe
Because in
August.
October, we had your workshop 5 days for 2 hours. Then
Yes, we can do that. We can
by
do
us
that.
also.
We can do that.
Thank
We
you,
can
madam.
plan that.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you so
update
much.
you on the WhatsApp group. Please be active.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much.
We
Thank
have the
you.
Facebook group, we have the Facebook page, so please like and keep in touch. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take
See you
care.
on the WhatsApp with continuous interaction.
Yeah. Stay
Thank you.
healthy. Share any papers, no issue. You can
Thank
cite.
Bye. Thank you. Goodbye.
Take care. Take care.
And all of you can also join me on LinkedIn. It's by the name of Jaspreet Kaur at Pearl Academy. Jaspreet Kaur at Pearl Academy, because I keep on updating my
Yeah.
research papers over there whenever I publish and even workshops.
Networking
Thank you
is
so
very
much.
important for research journey.
Yes. Thank you, Imtiaz sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Goodbye.
you, ma'am. Take care. Thank you.